The White Horse Prophecy is a popular and controversial American prophecy allegedly given by the Mormon founder Joseph Smith in around the year 1843. It was first reported by a Mormon by the name of Edwin Rushton sometime between 1900 and 1904. In the prophecy, Joseph Smith foretells of a time when the United States Constitution will, quote, hang by a thread, and when a state/nation of Mormons in the Rocky Mountains will actually come to save it, the so-called White Horse of peace and safety. I'd like to point out, before we go too far into this video, that the White Horse Prophecy is not, nor has it ever been, official doctrine of the LDS Church. There are many layfolk and clergymen who still think that this is a legitimate prophecy. Some of them actually happen to be major news anchors and politicians, so I do still think it is important. But in fairness to our Mormon brethren, I do want to point out that this is not something that has been officially accepted by the LDS Church now, nor at any time in the past. It is, however, accepted by a large number of layfolk and clergymen, hence why we will continue to make the video today. So let's go ahead and read the White Horse Prophecy, and we're going to ask a few questions during the course of this reading. Is it correct? Has anything come to pass? Is it possible that anything that hasn't come to pass could come to pass? Or has circumstance made it to where this is not something that could ever possibly be the case? For those of you who are looking at the screen, we are starting here at the highlighted section, going down, not up. My apologies for that. While this conversation was currently highlighted in blue. Let's go ahead and begin. While this conversation was on, we stood by his south wicket gate in the triangle. This is Edwin Rushton speaking. Turning to me, he said, I want to tell you something of the future. He is Joseph Smith. I will speak in a parable, like that unto John the Revelator. You will go to the Rocky Mountains, and you will be a great and mighty people established there, which I will call the White Horse of peace and safety. When the prophet said, you will see it, I said, where will you be at that time? He said, I shall never go there. Your enemies will continue to follow you with persecutions, and they will make obnoxious laws against you in Congress to destroy the White Horse. But you will have a friend or two to defend you and throw out the worst parts of the law, so they will so they will not hurt you so much. You must continue to petition Congress all the time, but they will treat you like strangers and aliens, and they will not give you your rights, but will govern you with strangers and commissioners. You will see the Constitution of the United States almost destroyed. It will hang like a thread as fine as a silk fiber. At that time, the prophet's countenance became sad, because, as he said, I love the Constitution. It was made by the inspiration of God, and will be preserved and saved by the efforts of the White Horse. For those of you who may be confused as to where the words are going on the screen, we are now here. Efforts of the White Horse. And the Red Horse, who will combine in its defense. The White Horse will find the mountains full of minerals, and they will become rich. At this time, it must be remembered the precious metals were not known to exist in either the Rocky Mountains or California. I will get there. You will see silver piled up in the streets. You will see gold shoveled in like sand. Gold will be of little value then, even in the mercantile capacity, for the people of the world will have something else to do seeking for salvation. So they'll have something else to do in seeking for salvation. The time will come when the banks of every nation will fail, and only two places will be safe where people can deposit their gold and treasure. This place will be the White Horse and England's vaults. A terrible revolution will take place in the land of America such as never been seen before. For the land will be left without a supreme government, and every species of wickedness will be practiced rampantly in the land. Father will be against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against mother. The most terrible scenes of bloodshed, murder, and rape that have ever been imagined or looked upon, will take place. People will be taken from the earth, and there will be peace and love only in the Rocky Mountains. So, peace and love only in the Rocky Mountains during this very tumultuous time. This will cause many hundreds of thousands of the honest and heart of the world to gather in the Rocky Mountains. Not because they would be saints, but for safety, and because they will be so numerous that you will be in danger of famine, but not for want of seed not for want of seed, time, and harvest, but because of so many to be fed. Many will come with bundles under their arm, to escape the calamities, for there will be no escape except only by escaping and fleeing to Zion, Zion being the Rocky Mountains. Those that come to you will try to keep the laws and be one with you, for they will see your unity and the greatness of your organization. The Turkish Empire of the Crescent will be the first power to be disputed, for freedom must be given for the gospel to be practiced in the Holy Land. The Lord took of the best blood of the nations and planted them on the small islands now called England and Great Britain, and gave them power in the nations for 1,000 years, and their power will continue with them, that they may keep the balance of power, and that they will keep Russia from sweeping her power over the world. England and France are now being 1843, the current time that this is allegedly given, bitter enemies, but they will be allied together and be united to keep Russia from conquering the world. The two popes, Greek and Catholic, will eventually come together in their decline and be united. The Protestant religions do not know how much they are indebted to Henry VIII for throwing off the Pope's bill and establishing the Protestant faith. Excuse me just one second. He was the only monarch who could do so at the time, and he did it because, and for those of you who do not know, we're now going to the right side. So right here. Sorry, it's now illuminating the left side. So right here, right? Nation was at his back. And the nation was at his back to sustain him. So since I stopped there to let you guys know where we were, let's just reread that last sentence one more time. Excuse me. The Protestant religions do not know how much they are indebted to Henry VIII for throwing off the Pope's bill and establishing the Protestant faith. He was the only monarch who could do so at that time, and he did it because he had the nation behind him. Nation at his back to sustain him, rather. One of the peculiar features in England is the established red coat, a uniform making so remarkable a target to shoot at, and they have conquered wherever they have gone. The reason for this will be known to them someday as, as red is seen in different color threading. One last time, my apologies. The reason for this will be known to them someday as red is seen in a different color threading through under all history. The lion and the unicorn of England comes from there being so much blood of Israel in the nation. While the terrible things of which I have mentioned are going on, England will be neutral until it becomes so inhuman that she will interfere, and by it becomes so inhuman, they mean the revolution, that she will interfere to stop the shedding of blood, and history will be properly understood. England and France will unite together to make peace, not to subdue the nations. She will find this nation so broken up, and so many claiming government, till there will be no reasonable government. Then it will appear to the other nations or powers as though England had taken possession of the country. The Black Horse will flee to the invaders and will join them, for they have fear of becoming slaves again. Let me say that one more time. The Black Horse will flee to the invaders and will join them, for they have fear of becoming slaves again. Knowing that England did not believe in slavery, they will flee to them that they believe will make them safe. Armed with British bayonets, the doings of the Black Horse will be terrible. Here the prophet said that he could not bear to look longer upon the scenes as shown to him in visions, and he asked the Lord to close the scenes. Not quite finished yet. Continuing, he said, during this time, the great white horse will have gathered strength, sending out elders to gather the honest in heart from among the pale horse or people of the United States to stand by the Constitution of the United States as it was given by the inspiration of God. So the pale horse is Americans who are not Mormon. The white horse is this American nation or state in the Rockies. The red horse appears to be England, and the black horse appears to be American slaves or American blacks, depending on which way you'd like to interpret it. Although, to be fair, most American slaves were black, so I guess it's kind of the same either way. In these days which are yet to come, God will set up a kingdom, never to be thrown down, but other kingdoms to come unto it, and those kingdoms that will not let the gospel be preached in their lands will be humbled until they will. England, Germany, Norway, Denmark, Switzerland, Holland, and Belgium have a considerable amount of the blood of Israel among the people which must be gathered out. Those nations will submit to the nations of God. England will be the last of the nations to surrender, but when she does, she will do it as a whole in comparison as she threw off the Catholic power. The nobility knows that the gospel is true, but it has not pomp enough, and grandeur and influence for them to yet embrace it. He's talking about the British elite here. Excuse me. They are proud and will not acknowledge the kingdom of God or come unto it until they see the power it will have. Peace and safety in the Rocky Mountains will be protected by the guardians, the white horse and the red horse. The coming of the Messiah among this people will be so natural that only those who see him will know that he has come. But he will come and give his laws unto Zion and minister unto his people. This will not be his coming in the clouds of heaven to take vengeance on the wicked of the world. The temple in Jackson County, Missouri will be built in that generation. The saints will think that there will not be time to build it, but with the help that you can receive, you can put up a great temple quickly. You will have the gold and silver and precious stones you need for those things one last time. You will have all the gold, silver, and precious stones you need, for those things will only be for the beautifying of the temple. Also, all the skilled mechanics you want, and the 10 tribes of Israel will help build it. When you see the land bound with iron, you may look forward to Jackson County. At this point, he made a pause, and looking up as though the vision was still in view, he said, "There is a land beyond the Rocky Mountains that will be invaded by the heathen Chinese unless great care and protection be given." Speaking of the heathen nations, he said, "Where there is no law, there is no condemnation. This will apply to them. Power will be given to the white horse to rebuke the nations afar off, and you obey it. And you obey it, for the laws go forth from Zion. The last great struggle that Zion will ever have to contend with will be when the whole of America will be made the Zion of God. Those opposing will be called Gog and Magog." So those opposing the white horse, i.e. this state/nation of Mormons in the United States, are opposing Zion, and they will be known as Gog and Magog. Continuing. "The nations of the earth will be held by the Russian Tsar, and his power will be great, but all opposition will be overcome, and this land will be the Zion of our God. Amen." And there we finish the alleged prophecy. So, what are the issues with this prophecy from a historical and biblical standpoint? Well, ladies and gentlemen, there are definitely quite a few. The first thing I would like to point out as a prophecy issue is that there is no report of this alleged prophecy until about 1904, when Edwin Rushton decided that this was going to be published. Now, does this necessarily mean that the prophecy is false? No. There are certainly some portions that have already come to pass at that time, but there are other portions that do exist in the future at that time. So it's entirely possible that Edwin Rushton could just be late in his reporting this prophecy to the world. However, it must be noted that this alleged prophecy is not actually shown to anybody until 61 years after it was allegedly given. It must also be noted that certain elements of the prophecy, which ring true, cannot possibly be shown to be true. For example, when it says this was before it was understood that there was a lot of precious metals and jewels and things like that in California and the Rockies, well, in 1843, that's the case. But in 1904, far from it. In fact, in 1904, we've already had the Nevada Gold Rush, the Alaska Gold Rush, the California Gold Rush, the Rocky Gold Rush, and etc. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm not sure that there's actually any gold rushes in the United States after 1904, though I'm assuming that Alaska may have the ability to prove me wrong there. So, in this alleged prophecy here, we have 61 years of time in between the time that it's given to us and the time that it was allegedly given. Is that suspicious? I'll leave this up for you to decide. The second issue that I have with this particular prophecy right off the bat is its description as a parable. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, a parable is a usually short, fictitious story that illustrates a moral attitude or a religious principle. Also, something such as a news story or a series of real events likened to a parable in providing an instructive example or lesson. So, a parable is either a story that illustrates moral attitude, usually fictitious, or something like a short story or a series of real events that could be likened to a parable to provide an instructive example. What do both of these definitions have in common? Instructive example / religious principle or moral attitude. They are supposed to be teaching mechanisms for your particular creed. But ladies and gentlemen, we just read the entire White Horse prophecy, and it reads exactly like a normal, everyday prophecy. There's not a single parabolic, I'm not sure if that's a word, my apologies, but that's the only thing I can use to describe it. It's a word now. Anyways, there is not a single parabolic part of this entire text here. The entire text is very straightforward, spoken without symbology, and even the small amounts of symbology that it includes is very, very easily explained because Joseph Smith himself explained it. Now, does explaining a parable all of a sudden make it not a parable? No. If you call something a parable and it turns out to not be a parable, does that mean it's not necessarily a prophecy? No. However, it is interesting and definitely worthy of note that apparently this is supposed to be a parable and it's just clearly not one. It seems like Joseph Smith might not know what a parable is. Or, if Joseph Smith did not actually give this, Edwin Rushton, might not actually know what a parable is. Bigger problems than these two kind of nitpicky examples exist, though. For example, are Mormons ruled by strangers, being persecuted, treated as somebody who is foreign to the land? Obviously, this is not the case, but we see here in this particular prophecy that such is supposed to be the case. If we go down further here, we read again, right, where he says, where we'd be at that time, I will never go there. Your enemies will continue to follow you with persecutions, and they will make obnoxious laws against you in Congress to destroy the white horse. But you will have a friend or two to defend you and throw out the worst parts of the law, so they will not hurt you so much. You must continue to petition Congress all the time, but they will treat you like strangers and aliens, and they will not give you your rights. Well, since we know that the Constitution has not yet been hanging by a thread and saved by an alleged white horse, and since we also know that this alleged white horse, i.e. Mormon state/nation, is not filthy stinking rich for money coming from the Rockies, this clearly hasn't happened yet. So, since this hasn't happened yet, is it fair to say that Mormons are currently being treated like strangers, that they are ruled over by strangers and aliens, and that they are not actually given their rights in this country? Of course, such a notion is utterly ridiculous. In fact, the most important institution in all of Utah is Brigham Young University, a university owned directly by the LDS Church. In fact, Gary Herbert, the current governor of Utah, though I'm not sure if he's a Mormon, was educated at Brigham Young University. The senator from Utah currently was educated at Brigham Young University. His name is Mitt Romney. You may remember that name because he is, in fact, a Mormon. And due to the electoral nature of our government, this will always be the case. Mormons in Utah, in Idaho, in other high Mormon areas, will always have the ability to elect their own political officials because that's just the way that the United States government operates. What rights are Mormons not possessing? Again, they have to not be possessing rights if this prophecy is true because the Constitution has not yet been hanging by a thread and saved by the so-called white horse. So since that hasn't happened yet, that means Mormons should still be in this current state as described by Joseph Smith. So what rights are currently missing from Mormons? Do they not have the right to apply for a credit card? Do they not have the right to freedom of speech, religion, assembly, petition of the government, right to bear arms or form militia? Are their soldiers quartered in their house? Do they not have a right to perform marriages? Do they not have a right to adopt children? We could go on. Name any rights for me that the Mormons currently, as a whole, whether it's the Mormon church or the Mormon individual, that they do not have, that I, a non-Mormon, do in fact possess. Excuse me. Greater problem still. Is the Constitution divinely inspired? I will grant that this could possibly mean something similar to the C.S. Lewis notion of all truth in some sense is inspired. That is the best possible interpretation here. The worst and most straightforward interpretation of this particular portion of the prophecy is that the U.S. Constitution is divinely inspired like a sacred scripture or text. Now, we know that the Book of Mormon, the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible, the Doctrines and Covenants, and the Stone of Great Price, I believe, is the fourth one, if I'm not mistaken. But I might be mistaken on the fourth one. I've never been too clear on the fourth one in Mormonism, so maybe you can go ahead and correct me there. Nonetheless, we know that those are the four main holy texts of the Mormon Church. Well, it turns out there's actually 5 main holy texts of the Mormon Church, if this prophecy is to be believed. What is number 5? The United States Constitution, written by a bunch of not only not Mormon, but in some cases, not even Christian, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, individuals. Very interesting. We see another problem, the horses of Revelation. The white horse is the Mormon state/nation in the Rockies. The pale horse is the non-Mormon Americans. The red horse is the red coats, and their red coat is obviously supposed to be an example of that. And the black horse is the freed American slaves. There are so many problems to this I can't actually begin to count, but the biggest problem with it is the fact that it's obvious in the book of Revelation that these particular horses are symbolic of God's judgments. Revelation 6, verse 1. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. So, is this white horse going to conquer? Is it conquering currently? Because we do know the LDS Church has quite an establishment in the Rocky Mountains at this time. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. I will agree that actually the British government does fit that one pretty nicely. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. So, is there a pair of balances in the hand of slaves? By which, of course, this is metaphorical, as saying that they have the law in their hands. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Are black Americans currently so impoverished that an entire day's wages gives them a measure of wheat? Not even enough for a full loaf of bread? And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the 4, unto them, and power was given unto them, and power was given unto them. They work in unison with each other. And power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. What is the point of the 4 horsemen? To kill the people of the earth, an entire quarter of the earth, with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Does this sound like a Mormon nation, a British nation, a group of slaves, all coming together to fight against this pale horse? Is that what this sounds like? Certainly doesn't sound that way to me. Minerals in the Rocky Mountains. Did they make the LDS Church rich? This is not the case. So we have a little bit of a historical inaccuracy. Of course, at the time, it was not yet history, but nonetheless, the LDS Church is rich. It's rich in the same way that every other major organized religion in the entire planet is rich. It receives tithing and donations. It is not, however, rich due to some sort of an amazing foundation with all this gold and silver and precious jewels and things like that. Such a thing just did not happen. England's vaults and the White Horse will be the only working banks. Now, of course, none of the other banks have collapsed at this time, so we can't say much about this. However, I would quickly point out that England is in quite a large amount of debt and has been considered to be in the same economic turmoil, if not worse so, than the United States, since roughly the same time that the United States went down in a recession, 2006. But nonetheless, we'll actually go ahead and leave that one be, because there's ones that are a little bit more concrete to get to. So we see refugees will seek the Rockies for safety during a United States revolution that is greater than anybody has ever seen, right? Let's go ahead and reread what it is that we saw. A terrible revolution will take place in the land of America, such has never been seen before. For the land will be left without a supreme government, and every species of wickedness will be practiced rampantly in the land. And it goes on to say, of course, father against son, son against father, all that kind of stuff. People will be taken from the earth, and there will be peace and love only in the Rocky Mountains during this time. Now, interestingly enough, because Edwin Rushton did not actually know the future, he made a very grave error here. He says the Turkish Empire of the Crescent will be the first power to be disputed, for freedom must be given for the gospel to be preached in the Holy Land. So, during this great U.S. revolution, in which peace only exists in the Rocky Mountains, the Turkish Empire is going to fall. Ladies and gentlemen, has the U.S. revolution, greater than has ever been seen before, happened? No, it very clearly has not happened. And yet, the Turkish Empire, the Empire of the Crescent, referenced in this particular prophecy, is long gone and has been for 98 years at this time. The Turkish Empire was destroyed after the Young Turks completely destroyed its economy, slaughtered a whole bunch of the minorities, and lost in a war to the Allied powers, namely World War I. This is a well-known historical fact that nobody would dispute at this time, but of course in 1904, Edwin Rushton would have no ability to know that. He probably would not be the wisest socio-political scientist of the world. I assume most lay people are not. So, he probably didn't know the fact that Turkey was actually on the brink of collapse, even at the time that he was publishing this alleged prophecy. Either way, it does not matter what he knew or did not know, because we see here, beyond any shadow of a doubt, this prophecy cannot possibly be true, because the Turkish Empire is already gone. We see the East and West, or Orthodox and Catholic, or as he puts it, Greek and Catholic, churches, or popes, as he puts it, will merge. Though this is not accurate, the Orthodox leader is not a pope. He's considered to be first among equals. Nonetheless, he says the Protestants will not actually join in this particular unity. Ladies and gentlemen, I can go farther than that. Not only will and have the Protestants join, but so will and have the Mormons. Let's go ahead and look into something here real quick. I did not pull it up, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it up now. Pope Francis dedicates a temple in Rome. Pope meets with Mormon leadership in Rome to dedicate temple. This happened March 6th, 2019. It's on a Wednesday. Link will be in the description below, but note that this is not the only thing that has happened. I would get to some of the others, but in the name of time, I'm not going to. I will include links in the description below to the Pope meeting with the World Council of Churches on their 70th year anniversary, as well as signing a document with the Lutheran Church that declared the Protestant Reformation effectively over. So during this revolution that has not happened yet, England and France intervene, and it appears that England is actually going to be taking control over the United States. Now, of course, there's a problem with this. What is the problem with this? Great Britain is not even close to as powerful as the United States. Once again, in 1904, Edwin Rushton would not have known this, because in 1904, such a statement was not true. But it is now 2019, and the undisputed most powerful military in the Western world is the United States of America. You could argue Russia, China, and etc. I am going to keep this specifically to the Western world. However, it must be noted that the United States Army is actually more powerful, if you're talking about the sheer number of technology, training, all those sorts of things, than the entirety of the European continent. The idea that England in particular could put us under some sort of a military dictatorship is currently laughable. Will that change in the future? Possibly. But considering the destruction of both our nations recently, I highly doubt that. I'd also like to point out that the islands of Britain and England are in fact one island. So Edwin Rushton got that wrong as well. The Black Horse being slaves. The Black Horse will flee to the invaders and will join them, for they have fear of becoming slaves again. Well, dare I say, that's just incredibly racist. Why is that incredibly racist? Well, because let's go ahead and read Revelation again and read what it is exactly that the Black Horse is. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts saying, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." So apparently, this black horse either is in itself stuck in hellacious poverty, or is the cause of hellacious poverty. Either way, I sense a small little bit of Joseph Smith's very obvious racism coming through here, and we will get to that in another video at another time. After this event happens, the Jews are going to be gathered from Germany, from Denmark, from Sweden, etc. Is that not what the prophecy says? Let's go ahead and read this one more time, because my mind very well could be playing tricks on me here. Let me just go ahead and find where exactly it is. England, Germany, Norway, Denmark, Switzerland, Holland, and Belgium have a considerable amount of the blood of Israel among the people, which must be gathered out. Those nations will submit to the nations of God, and England will be the last of the nations to surrender. So, in England, in Germany, Norway, Denmark, etc., there's a considerable amount of the blood of Israel. They are going to be gathered during this time, according to this prophecy. Raise your hand if you have noticed the problem. Put your hand down, sir. I'm not able to see you. But, of course you notice the problem. The people of Israel have already been gathered. It happened in 1948 with the establishment of their nation. In fact, it's quite a controversial thing in the modern day, with the moving of the embassies to Jerusalem and all this other kind of stuff. So we know for an indisputable fact that the people of Israel have been gathered together in Israel. But ladies and gentlemen, according to this prophecy, that's not supposed to be happening until the destruction of the Crescent, which has already happened. And that's not supposed to be happening until a terrible revolution takes place in the United States, which has not happened. And that's not supposed to happen until the Constitution is hanging by a thread and saved by the white horse, i.e. a state of Mormons / a nation of Mormons. The last very obvious reason that this needs to be considered a false prophecy is that during this time, during this great revolution, during this Constitution hanging by a thread, during this fall of the Crescent Empire, during this returning of the Israeli people to Israel, the temple in Jackson County is going to be built. But ladies and gentlemen, the people have already gathered in Israel. The Mormons have already left Jackson County. The Empire of the Crescent has already fallen. And yet, no temple exists, nor has an attempt even been made to build such a temple in Jackson County. Lastly, but certainly not leastly, Gog and Magog, led by the Russian Tsar, according to this prophecy, but this cannot possibly be the case, as the Russian Tsar fell in 1917. Once again, not something Edwin Rushton would have known in 1904, but the future has spoken, and it has spoken for itself. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that this is not considered to be official doctrine of the Mormon Church. There is good reason for it. Why then do so many Mormons demand that this prophecy survive? Why do so many Mormons demand that this prophecy be held in truth? Why do so many of the Mormons go out publishing articles like Opinion, Will Mitt Romney Fulfill a Mormon Prophecy and Save the Constitution? Or Romney and the White Horse Prophecy from Salon 7 years ago? Or Will Mitt Romney Fulfill His Mormon Destiny from The Eagle 1 month ago? Or Mormon White House Prophecy Showdown in Debt Ceiling Debacle, Religion Dispatches 8 years ago. And you can go on and on. Leftists and conservatives constantly, every time a Mormon politician is even somewhat popular, reference this White Horse Prophecy. But the White Horse Prophecy cannot possibly be correct. There are certain things that it predicted must happen within the time frames of other things it predicted, and those things did not come to pass. And ladies and gentlemen, if this is something that is not from Edwin Rushdie, but rather is actually from the mouth of Joseph Smith, then he is definitively a false prophet. What does the Bible say about what makes you a prophet or not? Deuteronomy 18 and 22, if a prophet proclaims in the name of the Lord, a prophet proclaims in the name of the Lord, does not take place or come true, this is a message that the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken presumptuously, so do not be alarmed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is either a fabrication of Edwin Rushton or a fabrication of Joseph Smith. Either way, it is a fabrication, so do not be alarmed.